So imagine you take a massive, like, commercial generator.
Oh, wow. Okay. Setting the scene.
Yeah. Picture this giant piece of industrial equipment, right? And you try to plug it directly into a standard living room wall outlet.
Right, which is just a terrible idea.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, the fuse is going to blow instantly. The power goes out. But when that happens, you wouldn't stand there in the dark and blame the outlet for being malicious or broken, would you?
No. I mean, it simply wasn't built to handle that kind of voltage. It's just not designed for it.
Right. It's an impossible expectation. Yet, the crazy thing is, every single day, we do exactly this to the people we love.
Oh, that's such a good point. We really do.
We take the massive, overwhelming weight of our need for, like, ultimate security, and we just plug it straight into our friends or our partner.
And then, we feel entirely betrayed when the relationship shatters under the pressure.
Exactly, which is why today's mission on the deep dive is to offer you, the listener, a shortcut to a much more grounded, fundamentally less anxious way of living. We are unpacking a profound shift in how we view our connections, our sense of control, and really the exhausting expectations we carry around every day.
It's a heavy topic, but so necessary. And we're pulling insights today from a pair of philosophical and spiritual essays. One is titled The True Friend, and the other is called Vicegerent and Trust.
Yeah, and together they tackle the human condition, specifically examining friendship and this whole concept of trust, to look at just a radically different way to live.
And the central premise we're working with here, it actually bypasses the usual advice of simply, trying harder or finding better friends.
Right, because that's what we usually hear. Right, just hustle more, find your tribe.
Exactly. But the text suggests that the exhaustion you feel when life or people let you down, it isn't a sign that you need to grip the steering wheel tighter. It's actually a sign that you have the wrong address for your expectations.
Oh, I love that phrasing. The wrong address.
Yeah. And the first essay starts with this very primal human need for connection. I mean, we naturally form bonds, we share tables, and we open up these deep spaces within our hearts for other people.
Because fundamentally, human beings do not wish to walk alone through life. We just don't.
Right. We're built for connection.
Yeah.
But over time, there's this quiet realization that kind of creeps up on all of us.
Yeah, that phantom ache. Like, you can be surrounded by people, you can have a spouse or a best friend, and still feel it.
Yes. The text points out that not everyone who is physically beside you is truly with you.
And I think naturally when we feel that gap, our instinct is to assume the people around us are just failing us. Like they're being selfish or they're just oblivious to our needs.
But here's where the source material does a complete pivot. It shifts the blame totally away from the people around us.
Wait, so it's not their fault?
No, it explains that inside every single person, there's this fragile, unguarded center that no one else can ever fully reach.
Like a fundamentally inaccessible part of ourselves.
Exactly. Even to the people we consider our absolute closest confidants, we just cannot fully reveal our deepest selves. The limitation is built into the architecture of being human.
So even if you could perfectly articulate your deepest existential feels, which is hard enough, the person listening might not possess the capacity to fully understand or hold that weight anyway.
Right. Which brings us right back to your blown fuse analogy. A human being just isn't designed to be an absolute refuge for another human being.
Because they're human, they get tired, they get distracted.
Yeah, their moods change, they distance themselves to protect their own energy, or, they wound us completely unintentionally.
So placing a person in the position of the, quote, absolute friend, it's actually incredibly unfair to them. You're demanding that they never abandon you, never forget you, and perfectly understand you at all times.
And that demand creates an impossible burden.
No one can live up to that.
Exactly. But when a relationship breaks down under that pressure, we tend to think the concept of friendship itself is a lie. We get cynical, we stop trusting.
Right, we build walls.
But the text clarifies that the flaw is not in the friendship. The flaw is in the misplaced expectation. We are demanding ultimate, unwavering security from a creature that is inherently limited and constantly in flux.
Okay, so if human beings cannot provide this absolute security, where does this profound, undeniable need go? Because we still have the massive commercial generator, right? We still have this intense psychological need to be anchored.
We do. And if relying on people just leads to blown fuses, the text introduces what it calls an ontological truth.
Okay, unpack that for us.
So when the heart realizes no human can offer this perfect refuge, it slowly awakens to a new definition of connection. The idea forms that a true friend is someone who never abandons you, never forgets you, and never gives up on you.
But we just established humans can't do that.
Exactly. And so the individual inevitably turns toward God or the divine as the only anchor capable of holding that kind of weight.
Okay, I need to push back here for a second because this is where a concept like this can really lose people.
Sure, go for it.
In a modern, highly practical society, telling someone to just turn to God or a higher power can feel very abstract, almost like a platitude, you know?
I get that. It can feel dismissive if not understood properly.
Right, because when you're sitting on your kitchen floor on a Tuesday night, completely overwhelmed, and your best friend ghosts your text messages, how does this philosophy actually bridge the gap? Abstract philosophy doesn't immediately soothe the acute, stinging pain of loneliness.
No, it doesn't.
So are we supposed to just, withdraw from society, cancel our coffee dates, and become lonely hermits who only commune with the absolute?
Not at all.
Yeah.
The text explicitly warns against isolation. The withdrawal you're describing is just the other side of the same extreme coin.
Okay.
If you aren't clinging too tightly to people, the danger is you run away from them entirely. The core instruction in the text is to establish a very delicate balance. One must love people, but anchor the heart only in God.
Ah, okay. So the interaction remains. You still have friends, but the source of your internal security shifts.
Exactly. It changes the psychological mechanism of how you process a letdown. Let's look at that Tuesday night on the kitchen floor.
Yeah, let's talk about the ghosting friend.
If your friend was your absolute anchor, them ghosting you feels like the ground is opening up and swallowing you. It's an existential threat.
Because your entire emotional survival depended on them texting back.
Right. But if your heart is anchored in the absolute, in a divine presence that the text says does not close the door, does not erase you, and does not give up on you, then the friend's absence is just a human limitation.
It hurts, yes, but it's not world-ending.
Exactly. It's a surface-level wave, not a tsunami that destroys your whole foundation. You recognize your friend is just a flawed human who is probably tired or overwhelmed themselves.
It stops being a catastrophe. You stop taking their human limitation as a personal indictment of your worth.
And that completely transforms the nature of human relationships. The text describes this as loving for the sake of God.
Which means what, practically?
It means your affection no longer depends on getting a perfectly calibrated emotional return on your investment. It doesn't lead to toxic dependency. You start to see people not as possessions you cling to for survival, but as trusts.
Trusts, like temporary gifts.
Yes, they are individuals entrusted to you, placed in your life temporarily.
Wow. Treating people as trusts totally redefines the concept of loneliness for you, the listener.
It really does.
Because instead of feeling lost in a crowd of people who don't fully get you, you learn to, as the text beautifully puts it, deepen in solitude. You don't lose your center when you're alone.
Right, because you aren't desperate for anyone to fill an unfillable void. And that changes the very job description of a friend.
Yeah, you start asking entirely different questions about the company you keep. Like the source asks, do the people in my life bring me closer to truth or merely keep me occupied?
That is such a piercing question, merely keeping you occupied.
Right. A true friend is no longer someone who binds you to themselves out of mutual dependency, or someone who just validates all your worst impulses to make you feel better.
Right, they don't just offer empty comfort. A true friend becomes someone who actually directs you toward truth, awakens you when you're sleepwalking through life, and protects your reputation when you aren't in the room.
I love that. Protecting your absence. And there's a poetic couplet from the source material that cements this transition perfectly.
Oh yes, read that one.
It goes, I held on to shadows, calling them friend, yet they all faded away. Only you remained within me. Turns out they all led to you anyway.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It perfectly captures that transition from chasing after human validation to finding a stable, permanent anchor.
It really does. But then once you make that shift with the people in your life, you inevitably have to ask what else you're incorrectly claiming ownership over.
Yes, which brings us to the next massive layer of this philosophy, from the second essay.
Right. Because if we learn to stop treating our friends and partners as our possessions, the texts expand this idea of a trust to literally everything in your existence.
Everything. We walk around all day saying, my life, my body, my career, my time.
Yeah, we operate under this intense underlying impulse for control. We treat our lives like we hold the ultimate eternal deed to them.
And the source material really addresses this deeply ingrained desire to feel powerful, to direct events and shape outcomes.
Yeah.
We want everything to unfold exactly according to our individual will.
Because that feels safe.
Exactly. But the truth presented here is that a human being is not an owner. They are a trustee.
Okay, it makes me think of someone going to a rental car agency, right?
No, I like where this is going.
So you pick up a standard sedan for the weekend, you take it home, and you decide you don't really like the color.
Okay.
So you sand it down, you repaint it, and then you try to sell the engine for parts.
That is completely unhinged behavior.
It's absurd because the car was never yours to begin with. You're just driving it for a short time.
Right.
But the thing is, treating your life, your intellect, or your opportunities as things you absolutely own is the exact same level of absurdity. They are just temporarily placed in your care.
That distinction between an owner and a trustee is exactly where the text introduces the concept of vicegerency.
Vicegerency, that's a heavy word. What does it actually mean in this context?
Well, it's often misinterpreted as ruling or dominating the world around you, having dominion. But the text corrects this. Vicegerency is actually about right use.
Okay, let's ground right use in a practical scenario. Think of the difference between a micromanager and a truly empowering leader in a workplace.
Oh, perfect example.
The micromanager operates with an owner mentality. They think they own the project, they own the employee's time, and they try to dominate every single detail.
Right. And what happens? They crush the life out of the team because of their anxiety over controlling the outcome.
Exactly. But the empowering leader operates as a trustee. They recognize they've been handed a responsibility, they guide the process, they act with care, but they don't suffocate the people around them trying to force a specific, rigid result.
The owner seeks to dominate. The trustee feels responsibility. To be a vice-regent is not to have unrestricted freedom to just exploit what you've been handed.
Yeah.
It's to be accountable for the purposeful and measured use of your time, your abilities, and your resources.
It fundamentally changes your posture toward your own life. But I gotta say, here is where my modern conditioning flares up again.
Okay, lay it on me.
If I don't own my life, my body, or my choices, how do I actually function in a society that demands ambition? Doesn't adopting this trustee mindset make us completely passive?
The common fear, for sure.
Like, if I don't own my career, why should I even try to get a promotion? Do we just throw our hands up, sit on the couch, and say, well, I'm just a temporary driver of the rental car, so whatever happens, happens?
No, not at all. The text explicitly warned against that kind of fatalism. The balance of the trustee is highly active.
How so?
The rule is this: you act, but you do not own. You use, but you do not dominate. You choose, but you do not determine outcomes.
Wow. You choose, but you do not determine outcomes.
Yes. And losing this balance swings you into one of two dangerous extremes.
Which are arrogance or collapse.
Exactly. You either become arrogant, assuming that your hard work alone dictates the universe and that you control everything.
I built this all myself.
Right. Or when the illusion of control shatters when the market crashes, or an illness strikes you, collapse inward. You cannot bear the weight of the failure because you believed you were the sole architect of the outcome.
And this is where the profound psychological relief of this philosophy kicks in for you listening. I mean, think about your daily exhaustion. Think about the burnout and that low-level anxiety humming in the background of your life.
It's constant for so many people.
It is. And so much of that comes from trying to control things you were never meant to control. We try to script our children's entire futures. We try to force a specific trajectory in our careers. We try to micromanage the unfolding of the universe.
And it's exhausting.
Right. So this text is basically handing you a permission slip to let all of that go. Your responsibility is strictly limited to your own choices, your own intentions, and your own responses in the present moment. You are off the hook for the final outcome.
And that awareness of being a trustee brings true liberation. You understand? I am responsible for doing what is right, applying my intellect, and working hard. But I'm not responsible for forcing the universe to bend to my will.
It grounds a person.
It really does.
Yeah.
They engage with extreme care and focus, but without that agonizing white-knuckle grip on the result.
Which is wild because society constantly preaches the exact opposite. We're told that strength is bending the world to your will.
Hustle culture, right?
Exactly. Hustle culture tells us that if you just push hard enough, you can force any outcome.
Yeah.
But this philosophy argues that true strength is actually restraint.
It is a radical redefinition of power. The text states that true strength is not found in controlling everything around you, but in mastering yourself. You are not powerful simply because you have the ability to act or dominate.
Right.
Real strength is demonstrated by choosing not to act when action would just be an exercise of ego.
Like remaining silent when you have the perfect cutting remark and could easily win the argument.
Exactly.
Or being patient when every single impulse is screaming at you to react and force a resolution right now. Letting go of a grudge or a desired outcome when you actually have the leverage to hold on.
Those actions require an immense amount of internal power. They are the signs of a heart that understands trusteeship. It is the mastery of the internal landscape rather than the conquest of the external world.
And when you internalize this, the texts note that your very vocabulary begins to shift, doesn't it?
It does. You stop walking into a room and saying, look at this empire I built, or I achieved all this completely on my own.
Yeah, you start saying, I used what was entrusted to me to the best of my ability. You stop saying, this is mine, and you start saying, this has been given to me for a time.
And that linguistic shift changes your internal neurochemistry. Gratitude naturally replaces arrogance. You start to view everything you receive as an opportunity for right use.
And maybe more importantly, how you handle loss changes too.
Oh, absolutely. You view everything you lose, a job, a relationship, a physical ability, not as a crushing, unfair defeat, but as a simple return of the trust to its rightful owner.
Wow. Possessiveness fades into this heightened, peaceful awareness. And there's a second poetic couplet from the source material that really ties that realization together perfectly.
Let's hear it.
I thought I was the one in control, all turning at my command, but I am only a trustee, authority rests in his hand.
It's so grounding. By synthesizing these profound shifts, moving our ultimate expectations away from flawed humans and relinquishing the illusion of ultimate ownership, we completely restructure our internal world.
Yeah. We save our relationships from impossible burdens, and we save ourselves from paralyzing exhaustion.
You trade the blown fuse for a steady, reliable current. You engage with the world fully, you love deeply, you work hard, but you remain resilient because your foundation isn't built on things that constantly shift and fade.
I think that's the perfect way to look at it. So as we wrap up our exploration of these texts today, I want to leave you, the listener, with a completely different angle to chew on regarding this concept of trusteeship.
Right, because we've talked extensively about applying this to the present moment and to the anxiety of the future.
Exactly. But think about your past. Think about the heavy regrets you carry or the guilt over a massive failure from years ago. If you are only a trustee of the present moment and you never actually owned the final outcome of your life, what does that mean for your past mistakes?
Oh, that's a fascinating question.
Right. Were you ever truly the sole architect of those failures? Or is holding on to that crushing, enduring guilt just another sneakier form of arrogance? Like a way of secretly believing you had ultimate control all along?
Wow. Believing you had the power to ruin everything.
Exactly. What happens if you hand over the ownership of your past, accept that you were simply a flawed trustee, and finally forgive yourself? It's something to really mull over. Keep questioning, keep learning, and explore the freedom that comes with stepping out of the driver's seat. We will catch you next time.